All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to Grade 7 Technical Requirements for Piano from the RCM. I think this is our fourth video. This is actually like my third time recording this. I'm so sorry. It's just I was not super prepared and I made a bunch of mistakes and pauses and stuff, but you wouldn't notice that because of course this is just the first time you're seeing it. Okay, so Technical Requirements for Piano Grade 7. We left off on F sharp minor melodic. We finished that whole category, so yay. The next category we have to do is formula pattern. So technically still a scale. It's just it's actually scales you've already learned in the first video: D major, D minor, but now it's in a formula pattern. So if we look, it says it has to be hands together 2 octaves. And now 2 octaves can kind of be a little confusing. So if I ask you, or if your teacher asks you to do the wrong number of notes, I'm so sorry about that. Basically, it doesn't say anything here, so just follow exactly what the book says. On the other hand, it is kind of confusing because it looks like it's a lot of notes, but in reality, it's actually quite simple. So rather than looking at this here, I wrote it out for you what we are doing. So, like I said, I don't like to read very much, and I'm sure a lot of you also don't like to read either. So we're going to do it based on pattern work on the keyboard. So you go up 1 octave, out and in, another octave, a different octave, up and down, the same octave as this one, and then you go out and in again. So these two are the same, and then down. Kind of confusing, but much easier if you look at the keyboard. So we're going to do that. So if it's 2 octaves, we start D major. This is your first D. This is your first octave. This is your second octave. And that's about as high as you need to go. Unless you started lower. But definitely this is where you have to stop if you start here. So if you don't remember the notes, we'll go over them real quick. It is these 3. Those 4, and then officially you finish, but we continue. That's up. This is out and then in, so you end up back on the same spot. Then you go up and down, so you end up on the same spot. And then you go out and in again, and then you go back down. And then you're finished, and that's it. All right, so that is 1 octave formula pattern D major. So it is a little bit challenging. I don't really think you need to do it hand separately, but if you have trouble with it, the best way to do it is slowly or with pattern work. And I'll show you the pattern work. The pattern work can be a little bit challenging, and I'll show you why if I make the mistake, and if I don't, then I'll show you where the most common mistakes are. So long, short is my favorite pattern work. So we're going to do long on this one. And then if you do it properly, this one should be short. So we do long. Okay, so I did it mostly properly. I don't know if you noticed, but I did stutter ever so slightly, and it was because I wasn't sure what direction I was going on my first one. So going up, you're supposed to go here, and then you go out, but I kind of wanted to go here and then up because that was more comfortable. Anyhow, so to do long, short again, you just want to make sure you know the direction you're going when you hit the center note, because this is a short note. Okay, long. All right, so that is the 2 octave version of the formula pattern in D major. Like I said, this is like my 3rd or 4th recording of it, which is why I didn't make the mistake this time, but it is very common to make the mistake in the middle. So if you make that mistake, don't worry about it too much. Practice it slowly, and then you'll get it down. So the next one we're going to do is the D minor harmonic, and it's the same pattern, but now just different notes. So we'll review what the notes are. So it's 1, 2, 3, not sharp anymore. The this one flat, that's the 6th step, and then this sharp. Okay, and just don't forget basically that between the last 2 notes is always a half step. It's very close together. Okay, so we try it normal. That's up, this is out, and then in. Now up, out and in. Good. Okay, so that was nice and slow, very steady, comfortable for me. If it's still difficult for you, definitely practice just the regular scale and then slower than that. And then if you're trying to speed it up, you can do it long, short. And that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna take a quick pause. All right, so the next thing on the list is the chromatic scale. I just realized I wanted to show you one more thing before we do the chromatic scale, but it's just a flip of the page. So we're gonna go back to where we were to begin with. So where were we? So we were here at the formula pattern scales. I wanted to make sure that you don't do too many notes. We did the proper amount of notes to start. A lot of times I get confused, and some other people I'm sure will get confused as well. And I might ask you to do too many octaves because it says 2 octaves, and that means that you go from here to here. But sometimes you might think that 2 octaves is from here to here, and you go 2 octaves up and then 2 octaves out, and that's actually the higher level version of the formula pattern, which is called 4 octaves. So this is a 4 octave formula pattern. If you're doing this for grade 7, you're working way too hard. Don't need to do this many notes, okay? Sorry, that's the normal one. Anyways, if you start this low, it doesn't sound so pleasant. 2 octaves, you do it here. 4 octaves, you do it here. All right, so that is 4 octaves. Don't do that for grade 7. I don't know if you noticed, I totally made a mistake over here in this section because it's hard to see with my camera right in front of me. But that's kind of tricky because you know what? Online learning involves a lot of interesting tricks to kind of show you things. I don't have a fancy video set up. If you can look very carefully at my reflection there, you can kind of see what I'm doing. So this is a selfie stick, and it slides down sometimes by itself by accident, and I have to adjust that. And it is simply attached to a belt, and the belt is not super sturdy, so if it wobbles and stuff, that is normal. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can figure out a better way to show you things, but I think this is better than what I had before. Originally I had like a box, and then I put my laptop on top of the box, and that was kind of hard to maneuver and play around as well, but try my best to be creative here. Okay, so the next thing, let's take a quick look. The next thing on our list is chromatic scales. So if you don't know what a chromatic scale is and you look at this, oh my God, does that look very challenging? Yes, it does. Ignore all this. A chromatic scale just means that you're doing half steps or semitones or half tones, whatever you want to call them. You're hitting all the keys in between D to D. And if we flip back, it was again 2 octaves. Okay. So let's take a look at them. Okay, here is my D. And the 2nd octave D is here. So here's 1D, here's 2D, so this is your 1 octave, which is your 2nd D. And this is your 2 octaves, that's the 3rd D. Basically, all the white keys and all the black keys are going to be played on the way through to this very high D. To play it properly at a good speed, you try your best to follow the fingering in the book, or ignore the book and just remember the rule. All the black keys are finger 3. That will help you play it faster. It's actually the same for the left hand. So all the black keys are going to be finger 3. All the white keys are going to be finger 1 and 2 in this direction. Never flip, because this is very hard to do, especially fast. So the right hand's going to do finger 1s and 2s here. The left hand's going to do finger 1s and 2s in this direction. The opposite. Okay, don't get confused. I'm not sure how well I'll show this to you because my camera's already misbehaving. I might just have to sit really far back and try this out. So D to D, all the way over here. The sun is setting. It's so shiny and bright over here, but I think you can still see, especially as I'm playing in the range. So 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1. Oh, I forgot to talk about these notes. Okay, so everything is 1 except for this 1 and 2. And then everything is 3. Okay. So always this direction, never like that. I mean, you can do it like this, especially at a slower speed for grade 7. I think you might be able to. But in the higher levels, you want to go pretty fast. So use the right fingering to start and hopefully build good muscle memory. Okay, so 1. So that's hands separately. Hands together is going to be probably a little bit harder for me if I mess up my fingering. I totally know why. It's because I don't practice, and you should practice, and maybe I should practice a little bit more too. So good luck me. Let's try. Okay, good. So that was all right. I didn't make any mistakes. I definitely want to go further though, because I need to kind of know how far 2 octaves is. And that's kind of important to do at the exam too. Don't go too far because they're going to dock marks for not knowing when to stop. You should probably feel it. And I kind of haven't said anything about this before, but for your grade 7 scales, you should be phrasing them and making them nicer sounding rather than just being note work. I'm doing these videos mostly just to show you what the notes are, but in terms of phrasing, you just kind of want to do a crescendo, decrescendo. So I guess I'll give that a try. I may have decrescendoed a bit early because I ended up a little bit softer than I like, but it's just shaping the notes so that it sounds ever so slightly nicer rather than just note work. Okay, so that's the one on D. The other one the book wants you to do, or the RCM wants you to do, is G flat major. Sorry, not G flat major, chromatic on G flat. It's exactly the same thing, except that instead of starting on D, you start on G flat. You can read all these if you'd like, but much easier to just do it based on the pattern work. Okay, so pattern work here. G flat, 1 octave, 2 octaves. It kind of doesn't matter too much where you start, but usually try and stay around the center of the piano. So 3. And that's G flat. And that is, I think, all of the scales. Let's check. Let's see. Okay, scales, 2 octaves, all done. Formula patterns, done. Chromatic, done. And that's it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is chords. And we have the same exact number of chords. So if this takes me a while, I am so sorry. We will go ever so slowly through them, maybe 2, 4 at a time. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.